I know I can't fight 100 men,
Mm-hmm.
but the first 2 motherfuckers that I catch, oh, they gonna be on a t-shirt. After the first 2 hit the dirt, the next wave gonna hesitate. And that's when I turn strategic. No more swinging wild. Now I'm doing math.
Welcome back, everybody. It's a new week, and my name is Raman Wukong. This is the Crystal Bitoreum Weekly Announcements. Let's get into it. Version 3.0.2.1 is officially dead, and version 4.1.0.0 is the release that kills it. This goes out to everybody that's still following along in the Bitoreum Discord and the Crystal Bitoreum Discord. I will no longer really be doing major updates in Bitoreum. At this point in time, you either hop on the new network or fade into obscurity. Sorry, we tried to make it work. We really did. I really wanted to be backwards compatible with the old wallet. Your coins are safe, though. You can, as long as you haven't been mining, you can simply dump your old wallet, take the wallet file, load it into our software, and voila, your coins are there. But that's not going to be a forever thing. At some point in time, new coins are going to be invalidated because they are on 2 different chains. The mining pools have already updated to the new software. It was just set live maybe 30 minutes ago. You might want to go and update. Major changes are in the release notes. You can follow along over with us over at bitoreum.cc. Right? This will have your updates, and in general, you can see we've been updating the roadmap. Wallet will take you to the newest release, which I'm calling Portland, and following with the theme that Marius did, naming them after cities. I am too, only I'm naming them after the country and areas that I've lived. So releases will typically have a city name or a location that I have lived at some point in my life. In this release, you will have, and I do sorry for the delays. I am battling a sinus infection like you wouldn't believe. Anyway, network performance and reliability improvements, syncing and Smartnode behavior, Spork system implemented, internal upgrades to match upstream improvements. I'm trying to actually patch it more into Dash than to Raptorium. I'm kind of moving away from Raptorium, particularly because this was a really old, kind of buggy version of Raptorium, and the reality is I don't use any of those features from Raptorium. Raptorium, love you guys, heart emoji, but I think it's time for us to grow up and become our own thing. Quorum parameters are going to start being enforced and checked, and yes, there's a collateral update for Smartnodes. Wah, wah. Details of all of this kind of stuff can be found in our little section here. Please do read the critical notes. Once again, if you're always make a backup copy of your wallet.dat with your core safely shut down. Our binaries are still being made on 18.4, a little bit more on that later. Build for yourselves, guys. Like, at this point in time, I would love to just dedicate like a whole week to testing. I just can't. I know that 18.04 works, so that's what we're building on. If you're upgrading from 4.0.1.1, this is just a drop-in binary. You don't have to do anything else. If, however, you are using a version older than 4.0.1.1, you are probably going to have to resync from 0, meaning, dump everything except these files. This was mentioned in the last release too. Sometimes a reindexing works, sometimes it doesn't. We put it up as a suggestion for you to try, but the reality is full sync from 0, and it shouldn't take you that long since we actually do have the background network, which is a lot of what you're witnessing here. I'm looking for something very specific there. But anyway, obviously, if this is your first time at Fight Club, use the powcache.det. We have included that in the release. Right? Yeah. Right. In the footnotes, generic builds are those built on 18.04. They always pretty much just work. Only builds that have actually been tested show up here. We encourage everybody to compile their own binaries. And for those of you not familiar with the making process, I have created a Bitoreum builder that pretty much works. excuse me, only use the main branch right now. Dev's a little buggy. Dev, however, is the only branch that can make Windows cross compilers, but realistically, if you're making a Windows cross compiler, that's what this is, just built on 18. I have a version that was built on 22. I just haven't tested it yet. This was actually tested and working off Linux Mint, which I know is Ubuntu 24.04. But like I said, I only put up those that I've tested on the operating systems that they were tested on. Mac 13, running it right now. There's the POW cache. A bootstrap will be coming, okay? I know I said that last time, but it really is coming this time. What I'm really looking for is stability in the network, and more on that later. So yeah, the collateral is going up to 2 million. This is to coincide with some of the issues that we had with enforcing quorums. This was a interesting solution to doing it. So, you know, we're not doing it like they had done in past where it was like huge updates. This is just a 200,000 Bitoreum update. And for all of you saying, oh, well, that's insurmountable to like a mountain of dung. Realistically, if you join one of the 3 approved pools, which we'll go over in a second, you can actually mine a lot of Bitoreum on very low-end hardware right now because of the network hash. I mean, you can kind of see that here, that the network hash rate has dropped significantly, although this isn't being reported accurately because I think this is pulling data from CoinGecko. Okay, the difficulty is more or less correct, but this might not be correct because there are effectively 2 chains, and I think they're pulling data from both. I don't really know. I haven't looked into that. So this part might actually not be working, but this part definitely is. It does match when I've been monitoring it on the chain and in my wallet and in the mining software. Not mine, just other people's. Everything else in the Explorer has been pretty rock solid. Knock on wood. Love it. Okay, wallet takes you to the new one. Network has changed drastically. This used to link to mining pool stats. We don't do that anymore. They have been very unresponsive. So effectively, if it's not here, don't use it. We will be focusing on these 2 exchanges initially, with Trade Ogre probably coming along for the ride. August, September, October. I can't give you a finite date. There's a lot of things that have to happen before then. These 2 have either blatantly said, yeah, we on for the ride, and are really just waiting for our go-ahead and approval to jump on. These guys have said, let's test it first, and then we'll get back to you. They may want a new liquidity pool fee. I don't know. We haven't gotten that far. As of this moment, there are only 3 official mining pools that support us, so if you're not on Zpool, Zergpool, or Browser Lab, you're mining on the old chain. Don't do that. There will be a 4th one. They are in the process of rebuilding their pool. More on that in the future. I've moved a lot of the old buttons that were up here down to down here. GitHub's now down here. The one-click automatic compilers down here. Discord, YouTube, Blue Sky, Twitter, and promotions, which we'll talk about in a minute. Wallet, links back there. Document section, these are all the old documents. These do need to be updated primarily when we're talking about the white paper in terms of collateral updates and Smartnode setups. I did notice some things that were a bit off. It's mostly spot on. You can really follow this. Also, if you want a more easier to understand guide, let's see here, dash masternode setup. This only deals with the actual setting up of collateralizing. Outside of the fact that a couple of terms change, when you get to here, these commands are the same because ProTX, I think, started with them, and this just uses so much of Dash. This is one of the reasons why I really wanted to start migrating back into rooting this project more into Dash and less into Raptorium, just keeping the algorithm. But anyway, that's a future thing. For the time being, it is what it is. But the ProTX will work. So if you wanted to follow along with this, for some of you that might not like my writing style, I did hear some complaints. Valid complaints, by the way. You're not wrong. That might be a little bit easier for you. There will be a video explaining how to set up a Smartnode. That's going to have to be next week because there will not be a live broadcast next week. I'm traveling, so I was hoping to have that the video for how to make a Smartnode, and then the announcement officially of the promotion that we'll get into a little bit later. This is the code, so if you wanted to compile from source, you would just, get clone this URL up to here, -b v4.1.0.0. This is the same code that I'm using for the release candidates. I think, yeah, there are now 2 releases, just needed to be refreshed. Okay, so that's that. And then in the transparency section, as promised, I do make available what the developer wallet is. This widget doesn't always like to work. So what I've done here is clicked on a button that you can see in the Explorer what the current value, see it mismatches. That is the current value of the developer's wallet. But more importantly, well, I mean, that isn't very much important, but this is an accounting with the 2 funding sources for whatever we're doing. So in this regard, there was an $11.76 charge to host VPSs for the project for that month. That will fluctuate wildly depending on months, because these are typically paid on 3 or 6 month cycles. And it will show you who funded this, which is my parent corporation, Nico Vosh Empire. That's the one I own, which means none of the development funds were used to pay for that. And same for our Smartnode promotion. And you can see that this is kept on the wallet and what its value is here. This wallet address is going to change because the wallet that's housing this is very big, and simply locking and unlocking it has had some issues. So I will be moving this to a new wallet. So you're going to see this go away, but it will still be 10 million Bitoreum up for grabs. So about that, the promotions, that's just disabled because I haven't really made it look pretty, right? So I think that's just called promo. Yeah. In the month of August, I'm giving away 5 Smartnodes to lucky adopters of the new network. More on that will come in the following 14 days. This promotion will start going live in August 1st. The first giveaway, I believe, let's see here. Yeah, the 10th and the 31st are the 2 days. They will be Sundays that will line up in line with these broadcasts. We will give away 2 Smartnodes on the 10th and then 3 on the 31st. More how you get entries to follow in the near future. Pretty interesting, neat little idea that I had there. Until further notice, really do only mine from this. I do want to reiterate that. That is a critically important notion. Sorry, gotta have a little bit of tea. Like I said, this sinus infection is just killing me. These are the ones that have confirmed to work on our chain. Hopefully I can add more in the future. I think our plant was waiting for the exchanges to open back up, which, you know, this one will come pretty soon. There just has to be 2 things that we have to verify with the network, and I'm waiting for something here to happen. Once that change goes through, and once the new collateral change will happen, which is at block height 845000. All right. And what are we at now? How about we go back and look? So you got about, let's say, 3,000 blocks to update your core wallet to the new software, because only version 4.1.0.0 will allow for the collateral update. In no other wallet was this code introduced. So in order to participate in the new Smartnode setup, you need a new wallet, and you need the new collateral if you want to participate as a Smartnode. This is why I had mentioned to the Bitoreum network, hope you guys are tuning in and paying attention. For the time being, your Smartnodes are connected to my network. That will end because my network will be expecting a collateral that your wallet can't supply. Sorry, not sorry. And you know why sorry, not sorry. And a lot of you contributed to the ghost node problem in and of yourselves. So you have no one really to blame but yourselves. Suck it, I guess. Love you guys, but this was a radical change that had to happen, and I have been working on this, as many of you know, kind of night and day, which is kind of what led to this whole sinus infection anyway. Yeah. Too much work, not enough sleep, and not enough hydration, because sometimes this can get pretty stuffy considering that I have my miners running to make sure that the network moves along to give it enough hash, because I've got pretty much everything going in here. All right, I know that we're a little bit over, but this was a critical update. I'm going to open the floor up now to any questions and answers. So let me go back over. Let's change up the music and let's dump into our question and answer screen. So it looks like we don't got anything from YouTube, which is good. I do have a couple from my DMs. Let me get down a pen and a paper and read these because it's very, very small. Exchange support when? Yeah, nice. Very meme style. Once these two updates go through, so the problem is that the nature of this is kind of destructive. Um, if something terrible happens to the network, we may, air quote, have to roll the network back. And if doing so, that causes problems with exchanges. And since we're already on a new chain anyway, the only exchange I really have to be afraid of is the one that has agreed to just join us from day one. I don't think CrateX is on our network. I think they are still on the old chain. They were able to compile it and get it working, but I don't think they're actually using the new network. I will be reaching out to them. Well, I've already reached out to them, but they only talk to me via email, so there's normally about a 12 to 24-hour delay because I think they're based out of somewhere in Europe. Don't quote me on that. But point is that they get back to me fairly infrequently. So the thing is that if we do have to do a network rollback, the exchanges would have to eat transaction fees, and I'm not looking forward to doing that. That's the biggest reason why that there are no exchanges then, and I think that's what our plant was waiting for, is for the exchanges to come back online, because I think they really do focus on what do you call that? Switch mining, I guess is the best way to say it. So you mine Bitoreum and then instantly trade it out for, I don't know, Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever. And they rely heavily on the exchanges to be up to do that. And I'm not knocking the process, I'm not saying anything, but I think since our plant really focuses on that methodology for mining these smaller altcoins, no hate on you. I get it. There's no exchanges. You can't do that. That's perfectly fine. So maybe they'll come along for the ride when we get the exchanges back up, but I suspect about a week we'll know for sure, right? Because if everything goes smooth, much sooner than that. Just FYI, if a problem arises, I would say probably about a week. I do have to do a fair amount of traveling in the end of next weekend into next weekend specifically, which is why there will be no live broadcast on Sunday, or if it is, it'll be from my phone. It'll be really shitty. It is what it is. Next question. Where did I put that? Sorry, I'm a mess today. This one wasn't really a question. This was kind of interesting, though. Um, Without exchanges, what's the purpose in mining? That's a damn good question. Best I can say right now is I will give you my personal take on it. I did not get into this for the aspect of mining and exchanges. I know that that was a very forward focus that Marius had done. Obviously, he had a Bitoreum mining pool. I believe it was more than Bitoreum, but let's just say a Bitoreum mining pool. And he definitely had the infamous Bitoreum exchange, which had a lot of problems, primarily when most of the wallets went on offline because they just weren't maintained because money's a thing. Um, Partially that reason I'm not interested in that, but the other part is that while I understand that that is a huge focus on modern crypto economics, that has never been my focus. My focus has always been to treat this more than a store of value. I have been working on S-Mart, which right now I know is just tied into my eBay store, but effectively it's more like a general department store. Think, I don't know, Walmart, Aldi's. Only I know Aldi's does food. Um, I don't really know the international, but think department store like you used to go to in the 80s or 90s. I know I'm aging myself there, but that is effectively what you would have. So then you can just buy normal everyday shit or eclectic shit with cryptocurrency instead of a fiat. Start treating it like a real coin, because the only way that this is ever going to happen is if your everyday user can't distinguish using crypto from using cash or a credit card, then that's when you're going to get more wide scale adoption. That's not an easy solution, and Smart isn't the end all be all answer. It was just a solution that I had proposed to give others kind of like a guideline for saying, shit, this might work. So that is a very, very long winded way to say, I think the benefit for mining now is twofold: moving the network along, which is a very real thing that needs to happen. Else, I have to rely on some very sneaky tactics. Not even sneaky. I'm just hot. I'm sitting right in front of a miner stack. I think I have what, 28, 29 RX, AMD RX 580s running. So they are using Wild Rig, which is wildly inefficient, and the heat it generates is insane, just to ensure that the market moves on. And the weird ass nature of Ghost Rider, sometimes during the rot, you get incredibly difficult rotations. So, you get longer and longer spikes between blocks, which is problematic when you're trying to test things on the network live. Anyway, once again, that is all a very roundabout way of saying the benefit is hold, hodl, I think was the term. Mine to hold now, sell later. And if you can't afford doing that, then don't. Go somewhere else for right now. I know that's very weird for a coin operator to say, but it's the reality of the network as we're doing upgrades. There are very severe upgrades that absolutely need to happen to this project, and we are in the home stretch of the last of them. Which means, I know I keep saying we. It's me, guys. It's me. Royal we, right? Basically, I'm in the home stretch of solving the big problems. There were actually more than six. I originally thought there were six. There was actually a shitload more. But you don't really know that until you crack open the engine. But effectively, all the major bugs are almost out of code now. Things work the way they're supposed to. Hooray! So, in summation of all of that, mine to hold, the exchanges will come back. They're just going. They're. I know that at least one of them's chomping at the bit. They messaged me last night. I gave kind of a very candid answer. I said, hold off for a little bit longer, and I appreciate it. You guys sticking with us. I know that you want to get back into the business of making money, and I don't blame you. But like I said, the network has to be really a lot more stable before that happens. And that was partially what was related to that screen that was chugging along in the background. I'm waiting for a specific block height. That's when change one happens. Excuse me, there were a couple people in the crowd that was kind of for, that I know may not be watching live, but they will watch, or at least cliff note it, because I know that you guys cliff note. All right. Looks like I have one more question. I just want to read it to make sure, because once again, this isn't really a question. These are, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Close things when I didn't mean to. Oh, this one was an actual question. Who's the fourth mining? PMP. They're going through it right now. So right now, I know at least the last time I looked, they were still mining on the old chain. I guess a lot of them were on vacation, and there's kind of a rebuild that they're going through right now, or maintenance or something to that effect. Let me look into that. I know I looked before the broadcast, but that was like a couple hours ago. Nope. I think they actually took. I think they did actually take their mining pool offline. Good. Let's see here. Who is Alka Pool? Yeah, they're about the same hash. So it looks like a lot of the big mining pools, or a lot of the major hash, is coming off. I think PMP did suspend their Bitoreum. Thankfully, it's looking that way. I don't see the algo on their screen, which I think takes it off of their mining pool rotation because they are aware of what we're doing. They just weren't aware of it in the prior, and I've been working with them closely. They basically said, "Hey, let us know when it's finished, and we'll go from there." I think they were actually waiting for binaries because it'll just make their process a lot more simple. Because, like I said, I think they're going through pool maintenance, pool upgrade, something like that. So yeah, they're the fourth basically, and I think our plant will come back once the pools are there. I don't know. He hasn't said one way or the other, and that's fine. He doesn't have to commit to anything. I know he was a little bit irritated about the situation, the way that we did it. It was not my intention for things going this way, but the code was ugly, and we tried something that would have been nice and friendly, and sorry, didn't work. So we had to do things more drastically. Just be happy nobody thought that my drastic idea was a good idea. I had a really bad one that I ran by some friends, and they're like, "You are absolutely insane." So this was the next best thing. Basically, there were some interesting errors that popped up. We fixed most of them. Okay, I think we'll do one more question and then wrap it up for the day because I don't see anything in the Bitoreum network. Actually, let me make sure. Yep, I was on the Bitoreum. I don't see anything in the Crystal Bitoreum network. Nope, I don't see anything there. I don't see anything in my notes. Oh, yeah, sorry. I don't know if I said it. The collateral block update is block number 845,000. Okay? At that point in time, you will need collateral of 2 million Bitoreum to continue running a Smartnode. That was also one of the reasons why I'm doing a 10 million Bitoreum giveaway this month. I will likely do another giveaway October, and then I will definitely be doing one in December if the project lasts that long. I'm sure it will, but that's just what I'm thinking about right now. First, we got to get through this promotion, then that promotion, then the third promotions. And this promotion specifically is giving away the collateral that you need to open up a Smartnode. Could you take it and run? Absolutely. But considering that there are no exchanges right now anyway, why not just operate a Smartnode? And yes, that is what I hope to do next weekend, is have the video that explains how to set up a Smartnode. That will be released next week in my absence because I won't be able to do a live video because of travel that I have to do for work. Work has been kicking my ass, and doing this on the side has also been kicking my ass. Let's see here. One more. Oh, this one's. I mean, it's it. Sure, I'll get the question asked. Why do you have different names, and why do you show up on multiple Discords? And are you a developer for multiple projects? No. Why I show up as different names is because originally I started with the pen name None Ya Business, and then for when I started the Crystal Bitoreum server, I just changed the nickname to Ramen Wukong. It's kind of a play on words, and if anybody can ever figure it out, I will personally give you 2 million Bitoreum. But you have to figure out the whole name and why it is that way and what it's referencing. If you can tell me that and tell me on the Crystal Bitoreum Discord, I'll give you 2 million Bitoreum. Sound like a deal? That has nothing to do with the promotion. That's coming out of me personally, my own wallet. 2 million off cuff, straight to you. But you can't already know why. There are some of you that already know. Okay? But am I a developer for multiple projects? No. I'm a pain in the ass to multiple projects. I've tried to be less of a pain in the ass once I became a project runner. A lot of them are familiar with my shenanigans. Marius was familiar with my shenanigans. Your man is very familiar with my shenanigans, and he's very much like a real close personal friend of mine. I've been working with him for a while, and it was while I was looking at his code that I got kind of the boneheaded idea to do this, along with some poking and prodding from some old Bitoreum members. But do I work for multiple projects? No. I really just do this one, and then I do guest work for Yerbis from time to time, mostly in regards to Apple stuff. I am an Apple developer, um, so my focus is there. That's what I really started doing with Yerbis, was getting the Apple one up and going. I was trying to get it to compile on ARM when I did all this. And made a lot of progress because it has to be compliant with the binaries and dependencies that are all out. And I'm not going to get technical, but that was really my focus with Yerbis. And then I do work over here, and then I create my own software. It's part of one of the things that the Nikovash Empire does, is create custom software, maintain it. That's more to say utilities. It's not like, oh, I'm not making Microsoft Word over here every couple of... No, these are like utilities, which are more like graphical front ends to things that the operating system has that users don't really understand, and normally for a corporate setting, right? Like, oh, I need to send files over SCP on Mac, and there's no GUI front end for that I'm really aware of that is nice. So company X says, hey, can you build us something that'll do this? Sure. I build them for the man hours, right, and the testing, and that's how that works. So that's really a lot of what I do. And I was looking at Yerbis before I took this on. What now? We're going into like month 3. I would like to get this more stabilized so I can start refocusing my efforts a little bit more over there to solve one of the big problems that Yerbis had. Although I think Yerbman is much further along in that than I have for obvious reasons, and I still would like to go back and do the Mac thing for him too. But that's about the extent of it. And that's, like I said, mostly because I'm friends with Yerbman. So yeah, that's these are really the two projects that I'm based in. You'll see me around a lot in various discords. I think I lurk over at Raptorium, but that's just to see what their kind of take is. And so far, I think they have just been ignoring me. And I don't just mean me as a user. I think what I've been doing, and realistically, I'm okay with that. I know that there was a lot of uh, bad blood between Marius and Piggy, and I'm just not interested in that. I'm interested in the network as is and trying to save this coin from death. Because as I've said in the past, 3.0.2 will die in the future. And I think Ubuntu 25 or one of its subversions will kill it. Um, there's a hardening aspect to the operating system in coding that even 24 currently pisses off a lot of developers, and that is slated to get worse in that version. Meaning that a lot of software just won't work anymore. And while pools and exchanges may be perfectly fine running older versions of Ubuntu, and that's still valid because a lot of them are very secure, and security updates are maintained. But your average user, not so much. Power users, yeah, sure. I like version X. I'm going to stick with it until it's not supported anymore, right? I know I still have, like I said, I have the developer machine that runs 18. I have one Linux machine that runs the newest Mint Linux, but that's because it's a media PC, and there's some really cool shit out for Ubuntu 24 and Mint that just works. That was really fucking awesome. But even still, I think for my daily driver on Mint Linux, I think I'm still using 21 and might even be older than that. I know I have one of 18 kicking around, which is like Ubuntu 20, I think it was the comparable. And I think I still use Ubuntu 20 and 22 as daily drivers, mostly for development, not really as an actual daily driver. Unfortunately, I've had to default to using Windows as a daily driver a lot, which you can hear it in my voice, not the most appealing. But but yeah, that's this project, or 3.0.2 was going to die, right? And I can't save it because I don't have the original Sport key for that project. And trying to fork over the development fee into a meaningful way caused the first of our problems, or my problems, which was the network forking. And then I stalled the network intentionally to solve what that problem was, and then discovered why Marius was having such a hard time getting this software to work. I think a lot of it was he just wasn't keeping active on what was happening in the industry at that time. A lot of his issues dealt with something called a race condition, which were the issues that I had to solve, and those are noted there on what they were. And even if you look back in the original Bitoreum GitHub, you'll see people not directly talk about them, but reference these issues as they were coming up even years ago. In this version, it's solved, right? So, oh, sorry, I was seeing somebody ping me, but it has nothing to do with this. So that's the reality, is that 3.0.2 is dead, and even if it isn't dead now and you still want to try to use it, I wouldn't recommend it. You're likely going to lose any coin if you do, particularly if you're a new user. It won't sync, and I pretty much destroyed any ability for you to get network connections, because the original peer network that Marius had set up is offline. So 3.0.2, if you don't already have a bootstrap, you're SOL. And even if you get the bootstrap that he put on his site, that's 2 years old, and a lot of the ad nodes that he had mentioned there don't work anymore, so good luck. The reality is, just update. 4.1.0.0 is still Bitoreum, guys. We just enforce the rules over here, meaning the rules of the chain. Anyway, folks, I've rambled on long enough, I think, and I'm not seeing any new questions. Yeah, I won't have another video, or I won't have a live broadcast next week. If there is an emergency, I will put out an emergency, 5-second video kind of thing to explain what the emergency is, and probably another one when it comes out when that emergency has been dealt with. But until then, much love. I will see you all in 2 weeks, but the promotions video and the how to build a Smartnode video will come out next Sunday in my absence. Until then, have a great day. Love y'all. Bye.